Hi, my name is James. Today I'm going to show you how to build this wagon planter. This is a really fun project. It takes you about an hour to build, and it's made mostly of cedar fence pickets. And the wheels are really cheap and easy to find on Amazon. So if you're one of those who likes to sell your woodworking, this is a very high profit thing that you can make and sell. And I'll show you step by step exactly how to do it. But I want to show you one more thing real quick before we get started. A while back I did a video on regular planters with multiple different sides, and I've got a formula basically where you can take and you can decide any number of sides that you would like to have for your planter, like a 3-sided, a 4-sided, a 5-sided, 6, 7, 8, whatever, and then you can decide how much you want the angle to splay out on the sides of the planter. And it's going to really quickly show you what bevel to use on your chop saw and what miter to use on the chop saw. So it's a compound cut. These things are extremely easy to make. You can knock out one of these planters in probably 15 minutes. You'll basically cut your sides. Each time you just take and you flip the board and you cut another side. When your sides are done, you've got to put a little groove at the top and the bottom to hold a wire, which kind of holds these things together. Super easy to do. We do sell these router base plates if that's something that you would like to have for one of your routers. Those are available on the website. And once you have those grooves put in, you can basically put the planter together like that. So what I do is I bring them together, I tape the edges nicely, and I even add a little exterior glue, something like Type Bond 3 because it's going to be subjected to some weather. Or you can go without glue if you use a strong wire. No problem there. And you just run the tape together. I kind of cut the tape away from the groove so I have that groove still accessible. And you've got a 5-sided planter. And this thing is so fast to make. You make it with any wood that you want. And then I tie down snug with a wire tie. This is just actually a bit of just baling wire. This is a stainless steel wire, and I've got a wire tie tool that I use here. I'll give you a link to these things as well. It just makes it so easy. You just bend it over. It pulls this thing so tight it'll actually cut. You could probably just cut the wood in half with it, and it's just rock solid. I like to tuck those ends in a little bit. But this is a great video. I'm going to put a link to this video below. It's not too long of a video and shows you how to make all these things. And this is a great thing for those of you who are out there making money with your woodworking, because you can put these together with fence pickets. You can put them together with redwood, cedar, just about any wood you can find, pressure treated. And you're talking, $10, $15 for the planter, for the material. And some of these planters, the bigger ones especially, sell for $50, $60 a piece. So easy to make and sell these. In a weekend you could probably put together 50 of these or 100 of these things. I'll show you how to cut the tops, or I guess the bottoms, out. They just fit the angle of the planter. And this is a 5-sided planter that I decided to make here to show on the video. And calculating the angles for a 5-sided planter, especially when they splay out, is a pretty difficult job. But I've got a super simple formula. Shows you exactly how to do that. So you definitely got to go check out this video if that's something that you're interested in. And you can knock these things out and sell them, make money, or just use them around your house. They're great. You see all the different sides, a 4, 5, there's a 4-sided planter. Look how perfect those angles are. That's a 5-sided, that's a 6-sided, and we got a 7, we've got an 8, and here's another 8, but 2 of the sides are longer. So there's really no end to what you can do with these things. So go check that out and see what you guys think. So let's jump into the build here. So I got these wheels on Amazon, and they did come with a little hanging device so that you could mount them on the wall, I think for decoration. We do have one 2x12 cedar board that Ryan is resawing in half here, and that's going to be for the base of the wagon itself. That way I don't have to join up a couple of pickets. And I'll just even leave the cut rough. We don't have to do any special work with the cut. So I've got a piece there about 3/4 of an inch thick, cedar, and that's going to work perfectly for the bottom of this planter. We've got to cut it down just a little bit because it was a little bit too wide. And now we'll jump over and cut the sides out. Basically everything from the base of the planter up will be pickets. And this is a 1x6 picket that I got at Home Depot. I think they're $3 and something cents a piece. If you guys like this video, consider taking a second to hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to see what we have coming out for the future, you can click on the notification bell and it will let you know when I have new videos coming out. And these are just fantastic springtime projects. They're fun to give to family and friends, and they sell like wildfire this time of year. So I do have plans for this build, and there's a link to that in the description down below. We also have plans for our other planters, but definitely go check that other video out first before you get plans for those other planters. And you don't need any kind of high precision here for a planter like this. It's a little off, that's okay. It just adds to that rustic look. I leave all the cedar rough, that adds to the look as well. And someone could actually just put dirt in here and just turn the whole thing into a permanent planter, or you can do like we did, and I just put flower pots in there. It's designed to hold like an 8 or 9 inch flower pot just perfectly. And this is a project that one of the members of our community group had asked me to build. And if you are a member of it, it's then you know. But if you don't know, it's called King's Fine Woodworking Community, and we're on Facebook. And I'll put a link to that in the description below as well. And it's a great place to share your projects. So we only let woodworkers in, and you just got to answer a couple of questions to get in. We don't do any sales or advertising there really at all. And I usually also find out when there are new sales coming out on tools and things like that, and I'll post that in the group. But you can share your work, you can see other people's work, you can get help if you need help with a project. It's just a really nice community for woodworkers to share projects and to help other woodworkers. So I got these wheels on Amazon. I think it was about $8 or $9 for a set of 8 wheels, and they came a little too thin. Now it would work if this is just going to be a static planter and never move, but I actually made it have a pivotable, front steering mechanism, and you can actually pull it around. More for novelty than anything else. It's not necessary, but because of that, I wanted the wheels to be a little more rigid. So I have decided to go ahead and glue up 2 wheels together to make one, so the wheels are actually twice as thick and makes them twice as strong. Again, definitely not mandatory, but I think it helps this particular project out. Makes it a little more sturdy. You could probably buy thicker wheels as well. You could also cut wheels out on a CNC. They're not very hard, or you could even cut them out by hand. So that's the new wheel there, and it fits a 1/2 inch dowel. I think all the ones we looked at on Amazon fit a 1/2 inch dowel pretty good. That's perfect. And that's the last of the 4 that I put together. So it did take the whole set of wheels. So you got almost $10 for all the wheels. And these are blocks that are going to carry the axles and attach to the main body of the wagon itself. I'll show you how that goes together. So I do need to get a 1/2 inch hole going down all the way through them. Actually, if the hole's just a little bit bigger than 1/2, that's great. So if you have something like a 9/16 inch, then the wheel a little bit better. But if you want this thing static, you don't even need to do this at all. You could just glue, or you can just use some U-shaped nails and attach them, right onto the axles and hold them directly to the base of the planter. But I wanted it to wheel around like an actual wagon. I thought that would be a neat little feature. So I've got a little steering mechanism in it, and it probably added 15-20 minutes to the project, but not really a big deal. I think if you're going to sell these things, it is springtime. This is the perfect time to get out there and sell your woodworking for projects like this. But if you're going to sell these, that's a really great feature to have it. It actually functions like a real wagon. And there's that. Had to drill a little bit from both sides. That's Ryan, it's my daughter's boyfriend. He works full-time in the shop with us. And see, since I've drilled the hole a little bit bigger, the axle spins freely in it. I've got to cut a few more of these. Now these can be cut out of anything. They don't have to be cedar. Piece of pressure treated, anything would work. And now I'm going to make the steering block for the front. Again, these can be cut out of anything they're going to be underneath the sled, not really seen. And I've got a hole there, so it kind of acts like the axle block as well. And I'm going to just take the corners off of this. These are going to be little kind of collars. You'll see here in a second. I've decided to put like a 45-degree angle to make it easy for me to sand this piece round. So I've got that all the way around. If you make a cut like this, make sure you use a push stick. And just raise the saw blade only high enough to barely get through the work. And make it as safe as possible. So there it is. So it's got the same hole in it that the axle block does. And I'm going to cut these into I'm just eyeballing here, about 3/4 inch wide pieces. I do have plans for this project. They're the exact detailed plans, and I have a link for that in the description down below. Wagon may not look big, but it's actually pretty big. It's about 2 feet long, so it's a good size planter. And a couple of little triangles here to hold the steering block. Yeah, maybe I should have showed you the steering block first and then showed you all these, I suppose, but it'll all make sense here in just a moment. I'm going to drill a 1/2 inch hole in the handle. This is the pull handle for the wagon. And this will allow me to put a little dowel in crosswise to the handle to grab a hold of to pull it, make it a little bit easier to pull. And there's that pull handle. I've just kind of sanded the ends a little bit roundish. I put it most of the way in, and then I'll put a little bit of glue around it, and the CA will kind of soak down into that joint. And then I'll hammer it the rest of the way in to where it's just about centered, left to right. And now we're going to put together the steering block here. And again, I'll use CA glue for all of these joints. So CA glue is kind of my choice for this because I want this to be a fast project. Like I said earlier, you could use any glue that you want, but if you use something like the cyanoacrylate glue, it's going to cure really fast, especially if you use some accelerator, and then you're not really waiting for anything, no glue dry up times or anything like that, and you could finish a project like this in probably just over an hour. Doesn't take very long to cut the parts, and the assembly is relatively quick if the glue behaves and dries quickly for you, especially if you have accelerator. Sometimes I'll even put a few pin nails in. That gives this a little bit more hold power, a little more shearing strength if it's needed, but a little more holding power until the CA cures fully. Alright, Ryan is going to cut the axles out of a 1/2 inch dowel. And I have laid out a line here on the pull bar, and it's kind of like a bridle joint. And we're going to cut this out with a coping saw. There are many ways to do this. You could actually just make this out of 2 separate pieces. You could cut the dado. You could cut, a slot for the tenon and the groove, and make it perfect if you want to, but it's just not necessary for a project like this. It literally takes about a minute or 2 to cut this out with a coping saw, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can just look roughed out because it's going to fit this style of project. The coping saw will turn corners. It's really nice. I'm certainly no expert with the coping saw. You can see I have relatively ugly joints, but it works fine. It works great. And a coping saw is just a really handy tool to have in a workshop. And I think this is probably like a $5 coping saw from Lowe's. So it's something every workshop should have. Then we're going to take the sander, some coarse grit, and do kind of a round over on the end of the pull bar and on the steering block. That allows this thing to pivot up and down smoothly without locking itself up. And we're going to go ahead and drill our hole and put in a hex head bolt and put a steel nut with a nylon locking component to the nuts, a lock nut. That way it won't come apart in the future. It's not tightened down, it's just loosely there to take a look at. Now we can go ahead and put the hole into the steering block. It's going to hold the steering mechanism to the wagon itself, to the wagon body. And now we'll put the hole in the wagon body. This is the base that we cut out of one piece of the wagon body, the bottom. And we're going to go ahead and drive our 3/8 inch hex head bolt through the top of that. We want to have a couple of washers probably. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of grease, like bearing grease, between the two washers. Probably not necessary. I just didn't really want it to rust up at some point in the future. I'm not really using a stainless steel washer. And the stainless steel bolt, I couldn't find any, and I had these here in the shop, so I decided to go ahead and use them. And that'll just make sure that this thing's always nice and free spinning. We'll tap that down in place. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll put a lock nut. It's called a nylock. It's got a little nylon insert in the nut to lock it up. And we'll go ahead and tighten this down until they just about make contact. They do not have to be tight. We don't want to compress the wood because we want that steering mechanism to steer. Here are those collars that we cut and sanded so that they're sort of round. And what they're doing is they're holding the axle into the steering block. They're not letting the steering block, not letting the axle slide out of the steering block. And we'll use these collars also at the end to hold the wheel on so that the wheel doesn't come off. Got some glue there. And I'll put a couple of pin nails through this too. They'll go through all the way into the dowel and give a little bit of extra hold. And we'll put one of the collars on the inside. That way the wheel can't move in or out. And the axle can't move in or out. That's all those are for. And these are the axle blocks for the rear portion of the planter. We just did the front portion. Thought I'd round over the tops a little bit, makes them look a little bit nicer. And this is the front of the wagon. And the very front has got a couple of joints that splay out there, and I'll show you what that looks like when we get to that. And I do have to cut one thin strip of wood. I'll show you what that's for in a moment. That's going to be the thickness of two washers, so see if you can guess where that goes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and assemble this front wall. It's two pieces, and I want the front of it to lean forward, outward, away from the wagon. It's kind of going to be a footrest for our cowboy. Not really a cowboy, I guess. My wife put Edgar Allan Poe there, but I'll put a few pin nails in that as well. And that's how that looks. Let that set up. And then I'm going to just use my nail set and push the ends of those nails down just underneath the surface. And there's the correct orientation like that. Alright, so I'm gluing this to the side wall. I want to make sure it's square. This is the front piece glued to the side piece. Using a square to make sure it's staying square, and we're using some accelerator to hurry up and cure that glue in place. We will put a couple screws in this too. I just need a tiny countersink. We'll put some pin nails in to hold it, but I won't even actually use a countersink bit, because I'm going to use a trim screw, with a finishing screw with a trim head, a really tiny head, and it's a thin number 6 screw, 1.5 long. These are stainless steel screws, so that tiny pilot hole of about 1/16 of an inch will make it so these won't split. I'll do the other side. I put some glue already, now we're going to put some accelerator. And we're going to screw this side in too. These screws are great. These are stainless steel, so they're not going to rust and bleed out onto the wood. I use these for a lot of outdoor projects. They have virtually no head, so they go in and they're almost invisible. But they have a lot of gripping power. And there's kind of the body, the rails of the wagon. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put the back axle blocks on. This is that thin strip that I cut. That thin strip is going to elevate those axle blocks up by the same amount that the front steering block is lifted up, because it has 2 washers under it. And that's about how thick this thin piece of wood is, a couple of washers thick. That way the 2 sets of wheels are at the same altitude the same distance away from the wagon body. I didn't want the wagon to tilt, down forward or backward. I'm going to sand the ends of those just a little bit, make them look a little bit nicer. Chamfer them at the bottom and give them a tiny bit of round over so it sort of matches the top of this axle block, which we'll glue on right to the edge of that. And then I'm going to put this axle in, and I'm going to put the other steering block or other axle block on before I glue it down onto the axle. That way I know they're in a straight line. I'd hate to put them both in and then have the dowel not fit between them, because I didn't make sure they were aligned. So we'll do it like that, and we'll glue them down. And of course we have to put our collars on the end of the wheels. But you'll notice on the inside of the wheels, this is the outside, on the inside of the wheels it's actually the axle block that's holding that wheel from moving inward. So I don't need an extra set of collars over here, just the outer two collars is all we need. You can see those blocks, axle blocks on the inside, are holding those wheels from going in. It's upside down, so we're going to turn it around right side up and take a look at it. Not bad. Slowly starting to look like a wagon there. Alright, and so now it is time to put the walls onto the base of the planter. We're going to start with CA glue, just like we have for everything else so far here. And we'll set it in place. Another area where this, your cuts don't have to be exactly perfect. If one's stuck out a little bit more or not quite as much as another side, it really would make a big difference. So if your cuts weren't just dead on, probably not a big deal. Fits right in with the rustic look. We're going to also screw this in all the way around. Same screws. Number 6 by 1.5 inch stainless steel trim screws. And that way it'll be nice and secure. Yeah, we'll turn around and see what it looks like. Hey, not bad. Looking more and more like a wagon. Alright, so I decided to go ahead and put a seat in the wagon. A little bench seat. It wasn't part of the original plan, but partway through I had sort of changed my mind and decided we'll dress it up just a little bit. And this is one of the things I was doing to dress it up. Got a mild angle for the seat back, because that just looks more natural. And then I had to make some armrests for the side of the seat, just out of some of the scrap cedar that I have left here. All this is completely optional, but I think it really adds to the look of the whole planter, of the whole wagon experience here. And it's so fast, I don't think we spent very long making this little seat for it. Just a few minutes. And these will be the legs for the seat. We're going to set these on the sides. I made sure they're the same distance back on both sides, and I have used my square to make sure they're straight up and down. Just glue is all that's needed, because it's a really big surface area. And we're going to just glue the seat directly on top of these. And I wanted to have the seat overhang those a little bit and just come out partway onto the sides, not over the sides, and not equal with the sides, but maybe just a little short of the sides. That seemed to look best. And now, if you remember from the design there, the wagon has sides. A lot of these wagons did. Allowed them to carry, more cargo, more hay, things like that. And since I cut a bevel on this top piece, but not the bottom, it actually sticks over inside of the wagon a little bit, and so I've just got a rasp. I'm just going to file this off flush and just leave it rough. And I've got this strapping material I got from Home Depot. I think it's just like 16 gauge metal strapping for just generic purposes. It's pretty cheap. I got a couple of pieces of it, and I'm filing the edges of it so it's not sharp. I'm just going to bend this over here at about the same angle that those sidewalls flare out. We'll do a little test fit. And we can always put it back in the vise and tap it one way or another. The fit seemed fine. I think black would look better. This is another embellishment that you probably don't need, but I think it really looks nice. So we went ahead and sprayed the whole thing black. The strap is galvanized steel, so it's not going to rust or cause problems anyway. And I took all these screw heads, screwed them into a little block of wood, and painted them black too. I wanted everything to be sort of muted. I didn't really want these things shiny and standing out. So I'm going to fill up all the holes in this strapping with those screw heads. They almost just look like big rivets, maybe how a wagon might have been put together a long time ago. Don't really have to do any countersinking or drilling pilot holes for these. They went in just fine. And now that those are in, we're going to put our front drawbar on. And this time we can cinch it down. Again, we don't want to compress the wood. We just want to bring it in close. Got to have a wrench on both sides because that nylon lock nut won't free spin once it gets on there a little bit. It's tight the whole way. That's what prevents it from coming off. Yeah, there we go. That looks pretty good. Steers nicely. No problem at all. So when it's loaded down with a great big old heavy plant, you're good to go. Now I didn't really want this thing laying on the ground because, you know, ordinarily you'd have a horse probably on each side carrying it. So I decided to put a couple of thin leather strings on each side of that. And put a couple of eye hooks in the front here, just really little eye hooks. And tie a knot in the end of the strings and just kind of let them suspend from this eye hook. There's no horses on it, of course, pulling it, but, you know, I think this looks nice. Kind of something to keep it suspended up off the ground. It's leather, kind of fits the theme, and I just thought that dressed it up a little bit. And I got to stick Edgar Allan Poe back in there. He's got places to go. And now he's got a wagon. I think he's going to have to transport those flowers. And so there you have it. That project's all complete. Pretty straightforward. I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching.